Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Carolyn McGee is speaking on the gift of balancing, creating, and producing energy. Carolyn's core values are community, connection, and collaboration. She is the founder of Sacred Haven Living, and her purpose is to help women break lifelong patterns of how they show up in life and to understand the relationship to themselves, others, money, and spirit. As the decision queen, she guides you to trust your intuition to make empowered decisions without second guessing and to take inspired action. She's an intuition coach, teacher, speaker, and author, and you can find out more about her at carolynmcgee.com. Carolyn, you're on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ginny, for the opportunity. I always love speaking to your community and meeting people here. So I'm just going to dive right into this beautiful topic. The universe was created with duality and with balance. There is north, south, east, and west. There is earth, fire, air, and water. There's light and dark. And there's feminine and masculine energy. We all have light aspects and shadow aspects. And all of these aspects are necessary. Without the shadow, the light wouldn't be as bright. And there's different parts of us that are here to help us to create balance. It's not being right. It's not being wrong. It's all about being in growth and being in flow. And that's the same for the divine feminine and the divine masculine qualities. Each of us has those attributes and energies, and it's important to keep them in balance. So in the beginning of time, the divine feminine flourished. She was powerful. We honored the Mother Earth and all of her gifts. We celebrated, we channeled her energy to create magic. We used the energy of the seasons, the moon, the plants, crystals, and animals. The divine feminine is creativity, it's flow, it's connection, it's presence, and it's nurturing. And we all still have that energy within us, no matter if we live in a female body or a male body or something in between. Now, the divine masculine is producing energy. It's expansion, it's building, and it's taking action. Along the way, the divine masculine was taken over by fear to squash down and make aspects of the divine feminine bad. We've had centuries of too much of the masculine qualities that are not balanced by the feminine. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that they're not balanced. We all have and need both of these. And so now we're in this phase, this beautiful opportunity where the divine feminine is rising again. And we're being invited to create balance and to remember that there's no good, there's no bad, there's just information. There's light and shadow. And the masculine, what I call the toxic masculine, that fearful masculine that wants to control, needs to remember that they have feminine aspects too, and that they're positive. And the feminine piece of us needs to honor that we all need the producing and the providing part that is the divine masculine. And so I offer you or invite you to think about the energies in your own body, the way you live your life, and how you might be able to bring them more into a balance or awareness so that you can feel more confident in everything that you do. So let me give you an example from my life. I have an engineering management degree. I spent 20 years in corporate America. I am highly logical. I am highly analytical. Those are all divine masculine traits and beautiful. When I first remembered my spiritual side, I forgot all about that divine masculine energy that I had. I forgot about how important my ability to produce was and how much it served me. So I like to look at energy as a pendulum. I went way over here, and I was actually forgetting to pay my bills. That is a divine masculine trait. I'm like, oh, God, he'll take care of me. Yeah, well, God did. I got a bunch of phone calls that I had to deal with on top of everything else because I had forgotten just the simple divine masculine traits of setting up auto pay so I don't have to do it. So it's being in your body and taking care of energy. That's the divine masculine that I'm talking about. And it was also simple things like forgetting to return a phone call because I was so busy meditating. You lose clients if you don't return phone calls. So it's that ebb and flow of energy. And when we're present to how that energy flows back and forth, because we have all of those aspects of ourselves, it just allows us to step into which energy we need to be in each moment. For example, presence and stillness are the divine masculine. You feel energy in your legs. You feel more connected to source. You're more eager to take action. And of course, that part of our body has a lot of the divine feminine energy, but it's balance. It's that nurturing piece mixed in with the taking action piece. But if we're not present in our bodies and can feel all of that energy to access it, oftentimes we miss opportunities because we don't take action. We miss things. And I'm sure everybody knows here, but your heart is the center of your physical body, your energetic body. And when we connect to Mother Earth, and when we connect into the wisdom of Father Sky, we've got that divine masculine, divine feminine connection. It goes through our heart. And your heart is your most intuitive muscle. So as you allow that masculine and feminine energy to come through your sacred heart, then we bring harmony. We have clarity about our intuition. We can trust those messages that we're getting to take action. So that's, again, how we can utilize this energy that flows through us for our highest good. So I like to use the visual of a pendulum. And usually I have one on my desk, but I don't. But if you see a pendulum, it just goes across. And sometimes, like I did when I first stepped out of my corporate world and into this highly intuitive world, I swing way, way over to the side. And then you have to come back for a pendulum way over to this side. But it's modulating. One of my favorite heirloom pieces that I have in my house is a cuckoo clock. And that pendulum swings slightly to move the time forward, to create balance. And sometimes to adjust that pendulum, I need to move the weights up slightly or down slightly. So that's what I'm talking about with balance. It's not standing right in the middle and taking a step over here or taking a step over here. It's this modulation and this beautiful flow of energy so that you are living in the energy that you need for what you are doing in that moment. So it's understanding that I have the energy to write a blog. That's creative. That's the divine feminine. I get into that allowing and receiving and sometimes even channeling energy. And I write that all out. I allow it to flow through me. And what I used to do in the past is I would open up my sales email page and I would actually try and write it in there, and I'd be keeping the formatting. So my brain was all over the place with the creative piece and the producing piece. So what I've learned with this ebb and flow is I write my blog and then I schedule later on to take it and to edit it and refine it and then post it into my email delivery system or up on my website, and have a time frame when I'm utilizing that divine masculine energy, that producing, that pushing out into the world, task-oriented energy. And I've also noticed that for me, I have times of day that are more conducive to being creative. And each person is going to have that time. If you're an artist or you've got a business that has some level of creativity in it, you probably already know that there's a time of day that you feel better. Maybe some people are early morning. For me, it's late morning. That's when I do my creative work usually. That's where I'm writing things. That's when I'm writing the stories for my books. That's when I'm doing my crafts. That's the energy that I'm in there. And for me, late afternoon, that's my producing time. I have kind of a peak around 3 o'clock where I need to call in and nurture myself. That's part of the divine feminine. But as I come out of that energy source, then I step into that producing energy. And I can get so much done during that time frame because it matches my own body's energy. Now, occasionally, do I have to post something or take care of something in the morning? Yeah. But I have to be aware that it's not my natural energy in that moment, and that I'm kind of stepping into something that is not as supported for me. So I just invite you to think about your own time frame when your divine feminine, that creative energy, is more optimal for you. And are there things that don't feel as natural for you? Not everybody is going to have the balance in my body. In the breakout room, we talked about the left brain, right brain a little bit. And when I do those tests, I'm like 48-52, and sometimes it's 52-48, depending on the energy of that moment. But I am very, very balanced. And I'm also very grateful because it works for me. Now, a lot of you may have more of the divine masculine, and that's perfect for your job and your life and the relationships you've created. It's just making sure you don't forget the other side. And some of you are highly creative artists, or that's your world, that's your business. You need that. But don't forget the other aspect of allowing your work to get out into the world and taking care of things that need to happen around you to stay supported so you have the energy to create. So I would love to take some questions, hear feedback on if you liked the pendulum for balance analogy, and anything else.
Carolyn, when you were talking about balance and the pendulum, what came to mind too is I envisioned that the masculine and feminine energies are now like a DNA, that they're intertwining. And there's not we think of the seesaw as balance, but that's separate. And I just had this vision of like the intertwining, because when you look at like DNA, you don't say, is there balance? You just see that they are swirling together and, have this upward evolution. So anyway, that just came to mind. I wanted to share it.
Thank you. And another way I like to look at it is the infinity symbol, but kind of stretched out. And I say that it starts in my heart, and then the upper loop comes up here, and then the lower loop goes into my body. So there's this, or into my lower body. So there's this, lower chakra, upper chakra running through my heart, but it's an ebb and flow. It's this movement. I'm going to do it this way so we can get it on camera, but imagine that intersection point is in your heart. So you're flowing in energy, the masculine producing, the feminine creativity, that action taking and the inspiration, and you're flowing it through your heart, but it's a continual process. And you can, have it as tight as you need to, do you need to keep the energy close? Pull that energy in. Do you want it expansive and bring it out to really bring in universal energy? Do that too. But it's the balance. You don't want to be all up here. You don't want to be all down in your lower body and forget your creativity and spiritual connection. So that's what I mean by balance. There's so many different ways to take a look at it.
Carolyn, Heather wrote in the chat, finding a way to direct it toward one side when you need it is difficult. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes. The suggestion is to really step into awareness. And I know it sounds really simple, but it can be that simple. Like, what am I doing right now? Taking that moment, breath work is so powerful for this. Taking 3 deep breaths, and I like to use that yoga type breath where you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just, okay, what am I doing next? What do I need to shift into? You can even imagine like a pillar of light. Say you're going into, you've got to do your books. I'm very capable of doing my financial books, but I don't like it. So I have to prepare myself to do that. And I do those breaths and I connect into the divine masculine energy to allow that to move easily and effortlessly for me. And I turn off all of my notifications. I think being present, no matter what you're doing, if you're stepping into creativity or if you're stepping into that producing stuff, not having all of the Facebook notifications and your phone going off, it helps you to stay in the energy that you're in that moment. And then in between things, to continue this, I get up and move. A simple thing. Sometimes I get up and I dance down the hall because I've got a long hallway in my house, and it just shakes off that energy and allows me to move into the next place. Or do EFT. I'll tap on, I really don't want to have to do XYZ, but I know it's in my highest good and it needs to be done. Please allow it to be easy. So, some kind of movement connection with flow that can help me move into all aspects of myself, right? Because, if you're spiritually doing something, but you're emotionally doing something else, it's going to be really difficult to have the full energy and focus on what you're trying to accomplish in that moment.
Carolyn, Olivia has a question.
And so, Carolyn, this question kind of ties into like being consciously aware of when you're going between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and being, because say, for instance, what if you realize that you need to be at a place of producing versus creativity, and how to kind of navigate that? And you mentioned it, you gave some suggestions, but also being aware that this is where I am.
Yeah.
How do we go about making like, okay, oh my gosh, I'm in my place of when the pendulum begins to swing, and I'm now going into a more creative mode, and swinging back, and I'm now back into a more producing mode. What are your thoughts regarding that?
So I'm a big journaler, and I'm a big fan of journaling, excuse me. So I like to keep track of things. And even though I'm an allergist, Well, excuse me. So I like to use journaling and I like to use bullet points to keep track of things. Like, when do I feel like I'm most in flow? When do I feel like I can blow through my to-do list and just monitor that? And some of it's going to be the 24-hour clock. And some of it is also going to be the cycles of the moon. You know, there's the new moon where we're releasing, there's what we're creating with the the new moon we're creating, the full moon we're releasing. So you know, how can you map that all out and utilize it for your highest good? Wow.
I feel you, Carolyn. I've had those things happen before. They're rough.
That's
Yeah. Catherine has a question.
Yeah.
So I have a decision that I would like to make. And I keep going back and forth, and it has to do with my business. And I'm wondering, since you're like the decision queen, and you haven't really addressed that, but I'm wondering if this masculine, feminine, if it makes sense to take that into consideration in making a big decision.
Yeah, so for decision making, I think we need to ask, you know, that is the, I always say that asking is prayer, or, you know, you're putting out something. And meditation is the receiving part of that. So getting into that silence and that presence, which is the divine feminine, to receive that answer, and then filtering that answer through your heart. There's actually very simple tools that I teach to help people trust their hearts, because your heart is your most intuitive muscle. It is a very good barometer of truth. It is a very good barometer of safety. So, you know, filtering things through like that. Another thing that's really important is writing things down. And I suggest people do it with your hand versus typing, because there's that kinesthetic response. So free flow journal, you know, see what comes up. I am also still a big fan of a pro and con list. You know, it's the divine masculine, and it's important. You write it all down, and then you get into what matters the most. I mean, you know, I've made decisions where the pro list for one thing was, you know, a page and a half. And I made the other choice because that's what I knew my heart needed me to do. And it turned out to be the right choice. So it's having the faith to step into your intuition and follow it. That's the combination, right? It's that divine feminine of the receiving of your intuition, and then the taking action on it without second guessing, because you don't want to be in that spot where you're spending so much of your precious energy reviewing a choice you've already made. And that could be a whole nother topic. we could come back and do that again.
Carolyn, I know that you needed to leave by 5 of, and it's 5 of now.
Yeah.
Do you need to go now?
I can take one more question.
And Marnie has her hand up.
Thank you. Just an observation. I mean, I think what you're talking about, Carolyn, is it's a lifestyle change. You know, you're talking about journaling, you're talking about awareness, all that. It's a lifestyle. It's not situation by situation by situation. And what I find in my life, what's been happening recently, which is kind of cool, is by paying attention to the kinds of things that you're saying we need to pay attention to, right? I'm finding now that there's an awareness in me that's coming up on a physical level. So when I'm in a situation where I feel out of my balance, which can be manifested through sadness. It can be manifested through extreme drive, right? It can be either way. But what I'm finding now is that I'm tapping into it and I feel it. So, like, really briefly, I was in St. Louis a couple of weeks ago for my aunt's 92nd birthday. Lots of family stuff, lots of emotion, lots of drama. And I was at a luncheon with family members, and I just sat back and watched everybody and felt tremendously sad. And normally I would take that and go, okay, let's keep dealing with the present. Come on, getting. And this time I just sat back and felt it. And I excused myself, went to the ladies' room, and allowed myself to just tear up a little bit and acknowledge it. And I came back and I felt better. So what I guess I'm saying is that what you're talking about, I think, is really important, but it's a life change. And the more you do this, the more your body starts responding and you start feeling it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I am my best protector, right? So I'm the best monitor. So I can go into that room and I can say, acknowledge and who. So that just a comment that came up to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that, that brings in, body sensations. They're not, we've made certain sensations bad. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, things are not good. They're not bad. It's information. And, so feeling that sadness and allowing it allows it to move through you. Without whatever process you do, if you use breath work, if you use tapping, if you use, anything, it allows that energy to move through you so that it's not stuck in your body and weighing you down. Because the more energetic weight, emotional weight we carry in our bodies, the harder it is for us to feel our intuition. And then it makes it even harder to say yes or no on choices. So yeah, that doing things like that, it's a step process to awareness, and it's not an overnight thing, but it is powerful. And each time you practice, it's like you go to the gym, right? You lift weights, you do stuff. So it's practicing intuition, it's practicing the awareness, it's practicing the acknowledgement. I do a lot of work with angels, and my angels say they send us 1 million messages a day. Think about that. 1 million divine messages are coming our way. You can't see them all, but as you start to acknowledge the changes and the things that are going on in your life, then it becomes refined, and all of a sudden your vision becomes crystal clear on the channel that is working between the divine and you. And I think that it's the same way with this. The more we practice isolating something, the more we practice acknowledging it in gratitude, the easier it comes back to us.
Everyone, unmute yourself and let's let Carolyn hear our huge round of applause for this amazing talk.
Beautiful.
Carolyn, thank you. Thank you. I got so many great pieces of stuff in that. Both sides are like going nuts right now. So thank you. Thank you so much for being
You
with us.
are welcome. All right, now I'm gonna hop off, and I really appreciate you all. I would love to connect with you and keep this going. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay, that if you'd like to join us at our 11 free Zoom gatherings a month, or an in-person in Richmond, Virginia, or Charlottesville, Virginia, comment below and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also get more information and find out all about our community at opwgc.com. Thanks for watching.